Okay, so with Terry Hutchinson. Morning, Terry.
Morning.
Coffee for you in the morning, is it part of the routine?
Absolutely. On my third espresso already, so you definitely want to temper it a little bit because, the crash is coming at some point about mid-race, and as the guys say, they got to watch me a little bit because they don't want to lose me if the caffeine goes away too quickly.
Has that always been the case, hasn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, you temper it a little bit. It's one of those things that it's a good little jump start for you on the day, but generally speaking, I try not to have too much because I know the consequences of the backside aren't all that pretty.
And the coastal race today, you looking forward to that?
Not really. Coastal race is the good thing about it is it's just one race. It doesn't have any bonus points to it, and so in that regard, it is what it is. I mean, it's a lot of opportunity, and we've been sailing reasonably well. There's been a couple little mistakes here and there, and so it's one of those races that I think if we find ourselves in the front, we got to be smart about extending when we can, and if we find ourselves in the back, then we got to keep it close and keep chipping along.
One opportunity, though, I suppose, is to see a little bit of the scenery. Does that ever come into the equation for you at all? Do you ever realise where you are? You're racing in Ibiza, it could be Palma, it could be anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be lying to you if I said I looked around. Every time I go to one of these events or I'll talk to my mom, and she'll be, well, what did you do? What did you go out and see? It's like, well, I had breakfast in the hotel, then I went to work, and then I came back to the hotel, Mom. She's like, don't you get out and do stuff? Hello, we're working.
So from that point of view, is there a favourite venue in terms of what's on the land and the scenery? Do you ever get to...
This is my second time here. So we raced here in 2006, but it was in the fall, and it was kind of later in the season. I haven't really been around all that much, and so... I find this race course, though, is very challenging and a lot of little streaks in the breeze. And, from that regard, it's been a good regatta. This, Barcelona, and Palma have a lot of the same kind of little idiosyncrasies to it. So it's good preparation for the one coming up as well.
You look pretty happy on this circuit, back in the fold with Quantum Racing. I mean, has it been a nice process in the back of what happened with you in the Cup?
Yeah, no, it has been. It's a... everything happens for a reason, I guess. And, as much of a tragedy of what happened to Artemis and that whole thing, it is a bit of a relief to not be involved with it because, I did the best I could to avoid those situations from happening. And at a certain point, people didn't want to know about it. And so it's an absolute tragedy. And I was gutted when, flipped on the news that day and heard what was happening.
And do you still watch the event? Do you think the event is compromised?
Yeah, the event's definitely compromised. I mean, it's a shocker what's going on right now. The fact that, poor Ian, he's a great guy. He's stuck in the middle of something that he never really anticipated, I don't think, getting stuck in. And, Max eloquently put something, which, there's a lot of truth to what he said. How he said it probably isn't the best way of going about it, but, there's a lot of truth to what he said. And, I feel really bad for Max and for Team New Zealand and for Ian because they're all put into this situation that was never anticipated.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we're all just sailors.
Yeah. And, that's the real... The sport's going to take a hit because of it. In the outside world's opinion, it's our premier event. And so, in actuality, what you have going on here is a way better yachting contest as far as that goes. But, it'll sort itself out. It's the America's Cup. It's always been a little bit unique. And, over a period of time, I'm sure it'll recover. Unfortunately, it took... it almost took 20 years for the recovery after '88 to get the event back to where it was. And it's hard to argue that 2007 wasn't just a, top-notch, international sporting competition.
So how's life for you now away from that?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I've had a really good opportunity to spend a lot of time with my family. I've come back to quantum racing. I've gone back to sailing with Jim on the Barking Mad. Reignited some of the old fire that Vasco and I have against each other, which is very, very good.
Tell us a little bit more about that relationship, shall we call it, because you've been rivals for a long, long time. You couldn't be more different as characters.
Yeah, I think there's some similarities that people don't necessarily see. Vasco, he and I started racing against each other when we were 17 years old at a Youth World Championship. and ever since then, that's when the relationship started, and the yelling and the screaming. But it's I have the utmost respect for him as a competitor, and when you go out there and you beat those guys in a race that you've sailed well, because they're really, really good. And it's one of those things. It's a little bit of a, I don't know what the right words are, but you look forward to it because you like the punishment sometimes that that you get out of it, because it makes you better. And we got them on the last day in Barcelona, and then Vasco got us in the last race in Newport in the Far 40 regatta. And so it's a little bit tick for tack all summer long here.
And you're both still getting better, are you?
Oh yeah, for sure. And that's one of those things that define getting better. I think what you get better at is understanding situations, because you've seen them enough before that you know that there's good times to be patient, and then there's good times to, no, we got to do something now. And those guys sailed very, very well yesterday, because we had 2 races that we won, and we were making it hard on them, and they sailed very, very well to get the finishes that they did.
And have you both changed in the last few years? Have you
No.
both? Vasco tells me he has.
Oh, he's lying. No, I mean, we've probably both mellowed out a little bit, and I got a nice note from him, and at Christmas time, after everything had gone down with Artemis, and that's stuff like that. I think when you have the respect of the people that you race against and compete against, it says a lot about the person and their character as well. And he's definitely a top-notch guy.
Tell me what else you do away from sailing then when you've got time.
Hang out with my family a lot. Hang out with my kids.
What do you like doing with them?
Simple things. Simple things. I've taken up surfing with my youngest. Yeah. Exactly. If you saw me maneuvering myself around the boat, there's probably every 60 seconds I'm close to falling overboard. So that was quite comical. But we.
Who's better between the two of you?
Oh, he's way better. Aiden is way better. No, not even close. He he gets up, look, Dad, and I'm trying to stand next to him, and I generally end up getting pile driven into the beach. But it's fun to do. My oldest, Elias, is sailing. He plays lacrosse. We do a fair amount of mountain biking together.
What do you like as a sailing dad?
Oh, I stay away from it. I help him rig the boat. And
is that hard?
No, because I want him to enjoy the sport for what it is. It needs to be a love affair. And if it stays that way, then he'll keep with it for the rest of his life.
Is that what it was like for you when you were young?
Yeah, absolutely. I never, I could not get enough of it when I was a kid. And interestingly enough, a lot of the kids that came up through the Opti programs that were really, really good when we were 14, 15, 16, by the time we got to the universities and started our college sailing, they had burned out on it already. And I was just starting to get the true passion for it. So I want them to be excited by it. I want them to love it for what it is, because if you're not doing what we do for our job, just being out on the water is pretty darn nice as well.
You love it every day, do you?
Yeah. No, I mean, I greatly enjoy the competition. I greatly enjoy the people that I work with here in Quantum and on Barking Mad and the other teams that I sail on. It's really, really good.
Anything you've got a passion to do in the future in sailing or out of sailing?
Well, I mean, I'd be lying if I'd said the America's Cup still wasn't, firmly in the forefront of my mind.
So how could you see that transpiring in the near future? What would have to happen?
I'd have to be back in a monohull. I mean, the multi-hull sailing was awesome. It was great fun. But, I'd never say never to anything. But, I guess there's an element of it's not really what I have in mind. I like the process of developing the boat and going through that. And that's all happening now, but it's just different. And different's not bad, but I enjoy the racing element of it and the closeness of a boat length race. I mean, to me, what we had in 2007 was the perfect type of racing. Some people say it's boring because it's not happening at 18 or 20 knots or 45 knots. But, when those things, we don't know what's going to happen there yet, so it's hard to comment. But, to me, an average of a 19-second delta in a boat race over 7 races against a Lingy is pretty darn close racing. And, I enjoyed that a lot. And that competition, I mean, you just know when everything's firing and everything's happening perfectly, both teams can win a race.
And away from sailing, have you got any ambitions there? Anything you want to do?
Yeah, I love hanging out with my wife and with the 3 kids, and I didn't want to leave out Catherine there because she's, she's the one. Yeah, well, she's a funny little girl. She's, she loves doing her ukulele and loves singing, and it's unbelievable. She gets up and she'll belt out songs and play her ukulele or a guitar and does her acting, and so
she gets that from you, does she?
Oh yeah, she gets a lot of that from me. We're still trying to figure it out, so we might need a DNA test there on that one.
So, but away from sailing, have you got any ambitions? Any things you like to do?
I'd be lying to you if I had given it any thought. As much as anything, I really enjoy riding my road bike. And there's a couple races that I'd like to do. I mean, I say races. I almost signed up for a ride from San Francisco down to Los Angeles this summer. So we're in California for another year, so I might train and do that. But it's about a 600-mile ride down the coast, so which would be good fun. But beyond that, when I'm not here doing this and working, I just try as hard as I possibly can to prioritize my family, because they have a compromise in all this by us being away all the time.
That's right. It's a pretty selfish pursuit, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it is, and that's the it's nice to have that as if that's what I get to do when I go home, which is hang out with them and do that. I mean, it's certainly not all rosy. I mean, there's a lot of work there that's involved, and Shelley holds down the fort quite nicely, and so that's but that's a challenge too. And I mean, inevitably, I think. If my mark is left is that I was a great sailor but a horrible father, then I would have let a lot of people down. So I'd rather have it be the other way around.
Good work. Well, Terry, have a good day today. Cheers. Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Thanks. Thank you.